That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, we're going to go through and we are going to get some of these spread picks going. We are going to be looking at every NFL game for week 7, and so far we have been crushing it. Now, I will say that our overall record has come down a little bit over the past 2 weeks, but we started off the season so damn hot that there's no way in hell that we are going to keep up that hot streak. Let me pull up our overall record really quick before we dive into the video. Right now, we are sitting at 24-19-2. So I'm happy to be over 500. I mean, we came out, we told you at the beginning of the season. I mean, these picks, these spreads, I mean, Vegas is going to be so efficient for you to be able to go through and consistently beat Las Vegas over a large sample. It's literally nearly impossible. If anybody tries to tell you that they can do it, they are most of the time going to be lying to you. So let's go through, let's have some fun with this. Let's preview some of these games and let's try to pick out some spots where we think that you can possibly make some profitable bets. But of course, before we dive into it, go down there, drop that like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what some of your favorite bets are this week. And let's start it off with the Denver Broncos playing the Cleveland Browns, where right now you have the spread on this game at 3.5 points, where the Cleveland Browns are currently favored. Now, this is a very intriguing game because, I mean, in the majority of the time, a starting running back being down for an NFL team, that's not necessarily going to be making a massive impact on how you're projecting a game to go through and get played. I mean, you're not expecting, oh no, Dalvin Cook's out. I mean, Alexander Mattison is going to be way worse for the Minnesota Vikings. No, really, I mean, you just keep on plugging along. You just keep on evaluating what you have with the defense, the overall passing offensive efficiency, and that's kind of what tells you that running backs, they're not that important in the NFL in dictating what you're going to have from an overall win-loss statement with these certain teams. Now, with Cleveland, on the other hand, I think this could be a little bit of a different scenario in that not only are they missing out on Nick Chubb, now they also do not have Kareem Hunt for this contest. Looks like Dearness Johnson is going to be taking the starting reps here. We really don't know how the backfield's going to break down, but regardless, this is a team that's built around the run with an elite offensive line. And now you do not have any of their starting running backs. So to make them 3.5 point favorites seems a pretty aggressive here. I actually think that this game is one that we probably just want to go ahead and we probably want to take the Denver Broncos with. Now, I could easily be just completely falling into something that doesn't matter here with the loss of skill positional talent with the Cleveland Browns. But also at the same time, this is an offense that we know historically the passing efficiency is not going to be through the roof. So I think with Denver, it's just the team that so far we have seen this season. I mean, they're solid. They really don't have a single weak spot throughout the entire roster. So I think we're going to take the Denver Broncos plus 3.5 on Thursday night. Now, our next game is going to be the Washington football team playing the Green Bay Packers, where right now there's a massive spread on this game. You have a 9.5 point spread. Now, this is going to be in Green Bay. And with Washington, I mean, kind of the storyline you've had so far this season is this Washington football team is not nearly as good on the defensive side of the field as you expected them to be. I mean, I thought that Washington was going to have one of, if not the best defenses in the entire NFL this season. I mean, obviously, every time you turn on the game, all you hear about is, oh, I mean, this Washington defensive line has 4 first-round picks, 4 first-round picks, 4 first-round picks. I mean, it seems like the commentators have nothing else to talk about. But with that being said, you go through and keep in mind, they played some very good teams, but still, if you look at over the past 5 weeks, they've allowed 31 points against the Chiefs, 33 points for the New Orleans Saints and Jameis Winston, 30 points for the Atlanta Falcons, 43 points for the Bills, 29 points for the Giants. So, yeah, I mean, you have some really good teams on there like the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, but also you're not that worried about the Giants, the Falcons, or the New Orleans Saints offenses. Yet, despite that, you're having Washington just give up a consistent amount of points regularly. I will say 9.5 points. It does seem like a lot for this spread when we know that this Green Bay Packers team doesn't necessarily just want to run up the score. I mean, you've seen the Green Bay Packers actually play at a little bit of a slower pace where they're going to be trying to just control the game rather than just a boat race the other team. And I know that sounds dumb, but if you're looking at the pace of play for the Green Bay Packers, they're not running that many plays per game. So I think with a lower scoring contest in general, while I would imagine that Green Bay is just a team that very rarely is ever going to be close to losing this game, 9.5 points seems like a lot here, where we know that the Green Bay Packers, they're very willing to just run the ball and drain the clock in the second half if they do have that lead. Now, our next game will be at the Tennessee Titans, and you have the Kansas City Chiefs playing them, and it's going to be a 5.5-point spread where the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be favored. Now, this is a game where I think that, honestly, we're just going to continue to hammer in the Kansas City Chiefs. I think we're going to take the Chiefs a minus 5.5 here. So this will be our second bet of the week, considering that we are going to be just avoiding the Washington game. But with the Chiefs, this is a team that so far this season, while yes, they've been very disappointing. Right now, they're sitting at 3-3. The majority of these losses have come just with some atrocious turnovers for the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, with that Chargers game, that loss was close. The Ravens game, that loss was close. I know they get blown out by the Bills, but all three of those games, you get uncharacteristic turnovers by the Kansas City Chiefs. I think this is something that you should expect to be cleaned up. Really, you have the Chiefs at full strength. I mean, yeah, they don't have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but going back to what we were saying, missing a starting running back really is not going to matter for the majority of these offenses when you can just plug and play those next guys. Looks like Tyreek Hill will be slightly more healthy this week as well. We know Patrick Mahomes still near the very top in the NFL with his passing efficiency, even though he's made some pretty bad turnovers this season. I'd imagine that gets tightened up. And with the Titans, yes, they have Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is crushed. I mean, Derrick Henry is just, having a large lead over the rest of the field with his rushing yards, rushing touches, just rushing touchdowns. I mean, Henry looks legit, but still, you have a massive injury to the offensive line for the Tennessee Titans a week ago as well. I think we're going to take the Chiefs minus 5.5. I really like that line. Now, our next game is going to be the Atlanta Falcons going over to Miami. And right now, you currently have the Atlanta Falcons as 2.5-point favorites. And I think that this game's just so hard to predict exactly what you have with this Miami Dolphins team looking horrendous a week ago. I mean, it was Tua Tagovailoa's first week back. They were really limited with the options that they actually had in the passing game as well. Now, with that being said, they just gave the Jacksonville Jaguars their first win in like 20 straight games. With the Atlanta Falcons, this is a team that is seeing that Kyle Pitts breakout. They will have Calvin Ridley playing in this contest as well. I think that we're probably just going to take the Atlanta Falcons here. I mean, just looking at the fact that Miami's at home, they're essentially saying that right now in a vacuum, you have the Atlanta Falcons as a team that would be favored by 5.5 points. I think Atlanta is just better on almost every area of the field. I mean, right now with Miami, even the defense doesn't look that impressive. The offensive line looks like one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. So I think we're going to take the Atlanta Falcons minus 2.5 with Calvin Ridley coming back into this offense. Now, our next game is going to be at Gillette Stadium, where you have the New England Patriots as 6.5-point favorites. Now, I know everybody's going to want to go through. They're going to want to slam in the over for the New England Patriots. They're going to want to take the Patriots minus 6.5. It actually looks like the majority of the sports books have it at minus 7, so we'll say it's minus 7. I think this will be a stay-away game from us. I mean, with the New York Jets, I know that Zach Wilson has looked like one of, if not the worst starting quarterbacks in the entire NFL. But still, with that being said, I just think that coming out of the bye week, also going up against Mac Jones, 7 points is a lot for a rookie quarterback in Mac Jones that hasn't looked that impressive. I know Zach Wilson had 4 interceptions. He had 4 interceptions the last time he played Bill Belichick. But coming out of the bye week, I think there will just be too many moving variables where I'm not that confident with this bet, so this one will be a stay away. Now, our next game is going to be the Carolina Panthers going to MetLife Stadium, where right now Carolina is favored by 3 points. And it looks like, I mean, you may not have Kenny Golladay, you may not have Sterling Shepard, you may not have Kadarius Toney in this game. And once you start taking away all the dynamic pieces from this New York Giants offense, and the Carolina Panthers have had an impressive defense so far. I know they've taken a couple steps back over the past few weeks. I mean, if you're looking at what we've actually had from Carolina this week in particular, I mean, it was pretty ugly where Minnesota drops 34 points, but keep in mind, I mean, they were 28-28 going into the end of regulation there. So essentially they dropped 28 points in regulation. They gave up 140 rushing yards to Dalvin Cook. They gave up 373 passing yards to Kirk Cousins. But with that being said, I mean, I think that you can see this Carolina Panthers team with how well it is coached, and at the same time, just with the fact that you can get that blow-up performance from this offense, as we saw at the beginning of the season with the Carolina Panthers, where they were coming out here and they were dropping 26 points against the Saints. I mean, we've also seen them drop 28 points against the Cowboys, 28 points against the Vikings. I think we're actually going to go Carolina in a contest where the New York Giants should struggle a lot to move the ball down the field. The Giants just got blown out by the Rams. So yeah, we are going to be taking the Carolina Panthers -3. Well, with all that being said, I know the Giants have a very bad line. I want to go with the Panthers -3. Honestly, I think right now, when I'm recording this on October 19th, it's too uncertain with what we're going to have with a lot of those players in the New York Giants passing offense with their current health status. I don't want to be putting like a little caveat going, okay, if we get 2 of Barkley, Tony, Galladay, then we'll go with the Giants. If we only get 1 of them, then we'll wash it. If we get none, we'll go with the Panthers. I'm just going to avoid this situation entirely just because it's a little too far out right now, or maybe we can talk about this a little bit more later on in the week, but let's avoid the Giants and the Panthers. Now, our next game is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals playing the Baltimore Ravens, where the Ravens are currently 6-point favorites after just wiping the floor with the Los Angeles Chargers. And yeah, here I really want to go with the Bengals, as the Bengals, they look like their passing offense is just taking a step forward with Jamar Chase coming in and finally giving this team a deep threat that opens stuff up underneath where opposing teams just can't stack the box. They actually have to keep 2 safeties back, and just the fear that Jamar Chase is going to get behind the defense. Now, with all that being said, I think we'll still just have this game as a stay away because Baltimore looks so hot and cold right now that I don't want to be going through putting an official statement out there. So let's avoid that. Now, between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Las Vegas Raiders, now this is a game that we can get behind. Right now, the Raiders are 3-point favorites at home to the Philadelphia Eagles, and you're kind of seeing the Eagles go out, and I don't want to say they're tanking by any means. Obviously, the Zach Ertz trade rumors have been around for a very long time. But for them to go through and trade away Zach Ertz to get the contract off the books and also just to get pretty much a 5th-round pick and a depth defensive player in return, I think that you're kind of seeing this team, maybe that's just a symbolic trade to show what this team's intentions are for the rest of the season. I think that what you've had from Jalen Hurts over the past few weeks have shown us that he can be a very effective quarterback in fantasy, but in real-life NFL terms, this is not someone that's going to be a good NFL passing quarterback. And at the same time, I mean, with this Raiders team, they looked pretty good a week ago against a better Denver Broncos team compared to the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think we're going to take the Raiders -3 here at home. Now, our next game will be the Detroit Lions and the Los Angeles Rams playing in Los Angeles, where you actually have the revenge game, the quote-unquote revenge game for Jared Goff. Obviously, the entire narrative here is that, oh my gosh, you're going to have Sean McVay coming in and exposing Jared Goff, as Sean McVay knows everything about him. In reality, I don't want to be giving out an official take on this line just because if I'm looking across all different books right here, we're seeing lines at 14.5. We're seeing lines at 15.5 at the same time. When there's that much of a spread, like I can tell you to take the Rams -14.5, but at the same time, your sportsbook may have it at 15.5, and that just seems really aggressive. I think we're going to stay away from this Rams and Detroit Lions game. I mean, last time we tried to make that bet between the Buffalo Bills and the Houston Texans when we were getting a ridiculous amount of points, it did not turn out that well at all. And yeah, similar statement here when we're going to have the Houston Texans going over to Arizona, where right now you can find this game from anywhere with Arizona -17, or you can actually find it also with Arizona -18.5. So this is going to be another stay away spot for us just because the spread is a little bit varied site to site, and at the same time, I mean, we just had really no success in betting those really large spreads where you're not necessarily even just at that point trying to figure out how the game's going to go. Instead, you're going to try to figure out how it's going in the fourth quarter instead. So I'm going to be avoiding it. Now, the Chicago Bears, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you're actually getting a 12.5 point spread. And this is a line that I like attacking. And I hate to say this because Tampa looks fantastic. I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers look right now like they are a top 3 team yet again. But I think we can actually go through and bet the Chicago Bears here plus 12.5. And a big reason for this is with Justin Fields. While Justin Fields has been one of, if not the worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL, only behind Zach Wilson at this point, you actually have Chicago as a very slow playing offense, where I actually think the possessions that you're going to see in this game are going to be very low. So while, yes, this game's never going to be in question where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to win this easily, at the same time, I think that given the slow nature of this game overall, 12.5 points seems like a lot. So I hate betting for Justin Fields. I hate betting against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and a great defense, especially after they just had such an impressive win over the Philadelphia Eagles. But we will be taking the Chicago Bears plus 12.5. Now, our next game will be in San Francisco, where you have the Indianapolis Colts playing the San Francisco 49ers, where right now you have the spread on this game at 3.5 points, where right now, the San Francisco 49ers are favored. I am very surprised to see this spread. Now, I know that with Indianapolis, they've had some impressive games as of late, but still at the same time, the 49ers, in my opinion, while yes, you remove that week where they had Trey Lance starting. If we're looking at what you actually had with San Francisco so far this year, and keep in mind, at the same time, they are coming out of the bye week, so you'd imagine that Jimmy Garoppolo is good to go. You'd imagine that this team is a little healthier in general. They played a super close game against the Packers. They only lost by 2. They actually played a close game against the Seahawks. They played a close game against the Cardinals. Every game that they've played essentially this year has been relatively close, and they've had, it looks like, one of the toughest schedules in the NFL, going up against the Packers, the Seahawks, the Cardinals over the past 3 weeks. Whereas if you're looking at Indianapolis, so far this team's 2-4. This team so far has beaten the Miami Dolphins and the Houston Texans. Like, they lost easily to the Titans. They lost easily to the Seahawks. They lost in that close game against the Ravens. I think that we're just going to go through and we're going to say, well, the 49ers have the better defense. The 49ers probably have a better skill positional group overall. I guess, you know what, one thing that's affecting this line a lot is no George Kittle is definitely going to negatively affect the San Francisco 49ers. But especially at home, I think we are going to be going with the 49ers minus 3.5. Now, our next game is going to be the New Orleans Saints and the Seattle Seahawks, where right now the Saints are 5-point favorites, where, I want to go through and I want to bet against Geno Smith everywhere we can. But very similar to what we were talking about with the Chicago Bears, this Seahawks team and the New Orleans Saints, to be honest, neither team here really wants to push the ball with aggression. You're kind of seeing both teams just drain out the clock. So 5 points is a little bit more here than it would be otherwise. So while I want to be betting up against Geno Smith everywhere we can, New Orleans Saints coming out of the bye week as well. You'd imagine that, they also maybe are getting Michael Thomas back this week as well. This is at Seattle. See, the thing is going to be an 8:15 game. We're going to avoid this. We're going to avoid it, even though I really want to bet against Geno Smith here. I really do. Especially if we're going to be looking at this. Right now, you can kind of find this game at either 5.5, 5, 4.5. We're just going to avoid the Saints and the Seahawks, even though I really want to bet against Geno Smith. And yeah, that's all I got for you. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope that we continue to crush as the season goes on. We're going to be trying to avoid those games that have spreads that vary from sites to sites of telling, just because I don't want to be telling you to go take the Saints minus 4.5. Then on the site you're on, they're actually minus 5.5. And it's a little bit of a different story. So we will be avoiding those type of situations. But yeah, that's all I got for y'all. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope I see y'all out with the next one tomorrow.